My camera's already fixed up and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I should look sexy in it.
You're looking sexy?
Well, I was just thinking of that fucking scene where that lady was dropping water on herself. I think it's that movie where she crosses her legs. Just the way.
Flashdance?
Some interrogation scene where she's like,
oh no, that's Basic Instinct?
Yes. The way I sat down on my stool made me think of.
I think you're mixing multiple movies.
I don't watch movies.
Clearly. Except we do watch movies now.
I just fucking ruined that. Anyway, that could go with the.
That's our introduction to the fact we're going to be talking about movies, at least a movie in particular today, and perhaps the movie-going experience.
Oh God!
And how our perception of it has changed greatly since the pandemic.
Has it? I thought. Well, I fucking hated theaters for all of time.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, it perhaps exaggerated it. Having not been to a movie theater in 2 years.
Being spoiled by having everything fucking released by streaming services?
Yes, being able to watch things in the comfort of your own home has definitely spoiled us. Especially being able to watch as many programs as you wish.
Yeah, HBO's full slate is on. It's great. I don't even know when they're going to go back to putting movies in theaters only, but it doesn't seem like anytime soon.
It was great that you could watch a first-run theater film on HBO Max, and if it was a total stinker, you could turn it off and go watch an episode of, I don't know, Wellington Paranormal, if that's your thing.
Is that what you did after Wonder Woman 1984?
I didn't even watch Wonder Woman 1984.
I did.
I don't know why.
I don't know. The first one wasn't great.
Well, it wasn't terrible. It was a pretty rock standard DC equivalent of Marvel Loaf. And should we explain Marvel Loaf?
No, because they've watched all my videos and know what Marvel Loaf is. The fucking video that had 11 views. One of them might have been me testing it.
So for the very few people who are finding this video and aren't already subscribed to the King Dippy channel, yeah, no sponsor. Marvel Loaf is our term for extremely formulaic Marvel movies specifically, but I guess it can be applied to the superhero genre in general.
It's one specific series, universe of movies, if you will.
Yes.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes. How most of the movies just sort of blend together in your mind after you finish watching one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you tell me anything distinctly that happened in Thor: The Dark World, for example?
I think there was a tornado when the Reality Stone did a thing, and I think he jumped at the Ninth Doctor with a hammer and a reality thing.
I'd completely forgotten that the Reality Stone's in that movie. I
Yeah.
forgot that Chris Eccleston is in that movie.
Yeah. As a generic half-burnt face elf. Two-Face Man.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with the movie that we're actually going to be talking about today.
No, but we were describing Marvel Loaf.
And would you say that the movie we saw is Marvel Loaf?
Slightly. Because they all the ones in the cinematic universe all have that Feige feel. Like, he demands they all follow his like recipe, and I think that's why he makes sure they all feel at least a little bit like that.
They feel a little loafy. This one, I'm not sure it had too much loaf to it.
Its loaf percentage is about 10 to 15, which is kind of what I would give Homecoming's. I think I did give that to Homecoming for its loaf percentage.
All right.
Homecoming was about 20 to 30. Far From Home was about 10 to 15. Because I think Sony helped more later on.
In case it's not painfully obvious, the movie that we actually just got out of seeing...
We never said that.
No. The movie that we just got out of seeing, a few hours ago now?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Already.
Is Spider-Man No Way Home. And before we get into too much discussion...
I'm going to make sure I'm filming.
Yes.
Keep going.
Are we going to keep that in?
Yeah.
I'll take a look at mine then. Yeah, we're good.
We got 5 minutes till this camera fucks off.
Awesome. That's a problem, isn't it? We'll have to take a break when that's done, huh? Or is that... No, that's counting up.
Yeah, it's just at the 10-minute mark.
Okay.
Anyway, No Way Home is the movie that happened and we saw.
Yes. I think we're going to have to cut some of that out.
No.
No?
Okay,
Okay.
you can all just fucking stay. This is a podcast, right? Is this a video or is this a podcast? I think it's a podcast. If it's a podcast, you fucking do whatever you want and you just leave it.
A vidcastio.
You just fill it with close-up cuts.
Yes. And you can put, explosions in the background.
I want to make my pecs jump. Terry Crews, I can't do it.
We're off track again.
Yep, No Way Home happened.
Yes.
Movie.
No Way Home. Before we get into spoiler talk...
There are spoilers. Spoilers.
There will be spoilers.
Why did I make myself have to fucking edit that? Thanks, me. Thanks, Pass. Dippy.
But before we get into the spoiler talk, why don't we give just a overall impression for people who don't want to spoil and want to abandon this video as quickly as possible, because...
My overall impression kind of did spoil it, remember when we were leaving the theater? But I would say overall it's pretty good. Very good. In terms of heart and everything, I probably like it more than Endgame, which I don't even hold as the best Marvel loaf. I think Infinity War probably is one of their better ones. But yeah, I would say in terms of heart and things, I like it more. I guess in terms of action and shit that happened, probably Endgame more. Really depends on what I'm comparing.
We'll get more into that later. But I believe I'm generally more impressed with the film. I definitely like it a lot.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say, first impression, I could soften over time, but I feel like it's probably the most well-constructed live-action Spider-Man film. Possibly a contender for best Spider-Man film overall, against Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Should we just jump into spoilers then?
Red alert.
There's 3 fucking Spider-Men in the movie, Charlie! Maybe I should put some kind of warning there. I didn't realize while I was yelling that. Just because you said we were going to jump into spoilers doesn't mean I could just fucking start yelling spoilers. God damn. Oops.
Just have a flashing thing at the bottom of the screen here.
I'm going to have to... Well.
Spoilers in 3, 2...
Yep.
Well, it's probably the worst guarded secret in Hollywood of the past year or two.
And I think that's because Disney likes to leak shit about their movies and then pretend like some rogue agent escaped with pictures or footage.
Yes, and it's entirely possible that it was all a marketing scheme.
Yeah.
I think they wanted people to know the involvement of one Mr. Tobey Maguire and one Mr. Andrew Garfield.
Which is funny because they were doing the media rounds when this movie came out. I guess Tobey Maguire wasn't entirely. Andrew Garfield was because of other projects or something.
Yes, I remember distinctly there was an interview where Andrew Garfield was saying something to the effect of, if he's involved in this movie, it's news to him.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that would be hard for him to be unaware of his involvement.
It was just a bold-faced lie.
Yes.
Typical Marvel lies.
Yes. Andrew Garfield, I was very impressed with the meaty role that they actually gave him.
Yeah.
He doesn't appear till like the last third of the film, but
Yeah.
they do his interpretation of the character of Spider-Man a lot of justice.
Yeah.
Much more so than Mark Webb did with The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Which is, I think, Andrew Garfield complaining about that got him fired. So, this was like their chance to redeem themselves and help.
They really did.
Yeah.
They gave his character all sorts of catharsis that
Yeah.
they sort of fell flat on their face with Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I like how they handled Gwen's death in that.
Sure, but they really set it up so that it could be explored more in a third movie.
Yeah, and then they just fucking killed it off because he talked bad about their production team.
Yes, and I feel like they paid a lot of that stuff off in No Way Home.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to go into too specific spoilers?
I pretty much blew the big load. So, I mean, I'm putting a warning somewhere before I did that.
Garfield's Spider-Man.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm just making sure, just keep fucking going. We're good. This is the first time using multiple cameras.
This is going to look so professional.
No! Fuck! Goddamn main camera. It's still recording something. It was going 11 minutes, so I didn't think it was gonna shut down on us.
Alright.
We had other cameras going, though. The show's still...
Yeah.
So we were talking about Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
I thought I was gonna do that first.
Nope, me.
Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
Andrew Garfield, his Spider-Man, an important part of his character in this film is that he's still dealing with the grief and trauma of Gwen's death.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a very poignant moment towards like the end of the climax where MJ, this is going to get so confusing talking about these characters because a lot of them have all the same names.
Yeah, but she's the only MJ in the movie.
Zendaya.
Yeah.
She falls off of the scaffolding during the big fight at the end, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man jumps after her, tries to catch her, gets caught midair by Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. And Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man jumps after her and catches her and lands and saves her. And to Andrew Garfield's credit, the acting that you see in his face when he's like overcome with emotion, that he sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like he made up for his own shortcomings. In saving Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like it totally reminded him of it, but this time he actually succeeded.
And he asks her if she's okay, and she assures him, that she is, and she sees how emotional he's getting about it, and she asks him if he's okay.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the kind of stuff that we really needed in a third Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm. Which I wonder if they planned that with Mary Jane, if she was ever going to show up.
It's entirely possible that some of the story beats for the different Spider-Men would have been at play in their own respective sequels that never came to be.
That reminds me, random side note, Sam Raimi is doing Multiverse of Madness. I forgot.
Sam Raimi's in it?
He's doing it.
He's
the director.
Wow, I
He's
didn't
the
know
director
that.
yeah, I completely forgot. Because they were trying to involve him. I don't know why they didn't involve him in this, but yeah.
That's a good segue, though, because we can bring up that this movie also kind of works as a Doctor Strange sequel.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of screen time.
Because Spider-Man fucks him up.
Yeah.
Sort of.
He's
with
basically out of the movie for the entire second act.
Yep.
And most of the third.
Which, one thing that worries me about that confrontation, Doctor Strange is like all-powerful, and fucking Spider-Man tricked him, because there's that box that's containing the whole spell that was supposed to make everyone forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but the spell fucked up because Spidey kept changing it and adding to it, because for some reason they didn't talk about this first. Doctor Strange...
All of this was basically in the trailer.
Yeah.
We can discuss that more in a sec.
Well, I mean, like, the whole thing is Doctor Strange's spell goes awry because they're changing it as they go, and then they have to contain it in that box. And there's like a button you can press that's gonna send everybody that's crossing over that knows who Spidey is. They're crossing over from the other movie universes, and the box has a button. You press the button, it would send them all back to basically die.
It's basically the moment from Doctor Who.
Yeah. In a way, I mean, they came from because they were all coming
looks
from.
like the moment.
It does look like it, yeah. Yeah, very much like it. It's probably inspired by it.
Yeah.
But the box, like, they were all drifting in from moments where they died. Right before they died, Doc Ock and Goblin.
The villains, mostly.
Yeah. That's what I was going to specify. Spidey came from just kind of their present day, which was cool. You got to see them. They were mature and older. But the villains were going to be sent back to where they died, so... that's like the whole point, is that Spidey took the box so that Doctor Strange couldn't send them back pressing the button and sending them to their deaths. And it resulted in them kind of fighting over it, and fucking Spidey won. Spidey beat Doctor Strange. They should be very worried for their universe. The Master of Mystic Arts can't stop Spider-Man.
The Sorcerer Supreme got beat by a kid from Queens.
Mm-hmm. Using math. They took him to the mirror universe so Doctor Strange could bend reality and try to knock him out. And Spidey used geometry to trap him and web him up and get some rocks stuck to him.
Benedict Cumberbatch, he's great as per usual, I feel.
Yeah.
As Doctor Strange. That's still some of the better casting in the MCU.
Yeah, one thing that's funny is how bad he was at masking his accent when he was trying to say that. The famous part, like, it always stands out to me when I see the clip. He's like, do you know what Peter Parker, the Spider-Man? And it's like, dude, can you say Spider-Man with an American accent? I don't think you can. Like, his accent's fine everywhere else in the movie, but I think they should have done another take of that scene. It's just so obvious It's like he's having a stroke mid-sentence. It's terrible.
I feel he comes from the Hugh Laurie school of Brits doing American accents. Where he tries to go low and gravelly.
Yeah.
Except Hugh Laurie's a million times better at it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who don't know that Hugh Laurie is actually British because he was so good at it in House.
Yeah.
But Benedict Cumberbatch, you can still hear little hints seeping through.
Yeah, and just that moment sounded so bad. And then there was like the green screening in the mirror dimension. That looked kind of stinky too, just for him.
Yeah.
Well, because Spidey was largely CGI, I think.
Yes.
So you could just CGI him into that.
Yeah, but overall the effects I think are very good.
Yeah.
That'll bring us to my one quibble with the movie would be during the climax it's kind of hard to tell which Spider-Man is which, because you've got three almost identical looking heroes web swinging around fighting the various villains, and
Yeah. And they opted to do it at night.
yes.
So you can't really see a lot of the action. It's like Venom. Venom's fighting the evil symbiote leader in the first movie.
So you got all this smoke and lightning and sand flying around, and just these three Spider-Man figures flying around, and your only real hints as to which one's which are the audio cues based on who's talking at that particular moment.
Yeah.
But even that can be confusing because they're all wearing face-covering masks, so you can't tell which one of them's speaking.
Yeah, and it just would have been cool to see them. Well, to see them. It would have been cool to see them do more teamwork. Because there's a moment they're swinging around and they like catch webs or something, and Holland Spidey throws the other two. Like, that was cool. I would have liked to see more of that.
Oh yeah, some of the cool team tactics they were using.
Yeah. Like, so not only could we not see it, I just feel like there should have been more of it. And maybe put the fight at daytime? It was at the end.
Yeah. And by that time, they'd basically all taken their masks off anyway.
Yeah,
So.
and the fight was over. It was just, by the time the sun came up, it was just Goblin versus Spidey, which I think that is some of the best fighting in the series. Not in that moment. In that moment, the camera goes right up their asses, and you can't tell who's doing what. But when Goblin first reveals his true colors, he tries... In the movie, they try to reform the villains. The whole reason Spidey wanted to take the box was so that they weren't getting sent back to their death. They were going to cure them all and put them back in their moments, and maybe they would redeem themselves and not die. Except Doc Ock's fucked. I mean, he's gotta die with his... So he's fucked. Anyway, Norman is acting like the Goblin has not taken him over the entire time. At some point, the Goblin takes over and just fucks everything up while they're working on the cures for each hero. Because, they capture them all using Strange's little wrist...
laser thing.
Yeah, like teleports whoever gets hit with the web that comes out of it.
Yeah, into a prison cell in the Sanctum Sanctorum's dungeon.
Yeah, and Spidey, after he takes out Strange, he takes them with him back to Happy's apartment where they're hiding out. Since everybody knows who Spider-Man is, they're throwing bricks through his window. There's a cool point that we gotta get back to.
Oh yeah,
I just remembered. Yeah. I always forget.
A little blink and you miss it cameo.
It's amazing. But yeah, so they're in Happy's apartment using Stark tech, because of course, to try and fix the heroes, or the villains, and that's when Goblin's like, I'm Goblin! Fucking starts wrecking things. Electro decides he wants power. Like, he loves that universe's energy.
It's worth noting at this point, Tom Holland's Spider-Man hasn't met up with Tobey Spider-Man, who probably would have called Willem Dafoe out on his shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, so Electro, who was, like, reformatted by the universe's energy to look better and not like a balding weirdo, he helped fuck things up more while Goblin was revealing his true nature. Because he wanted to keep an arc reactor to power himself. He was addicted to it, basically. And just the fight with Goblin and... I know what this is about to do. You bitch! I know what you're gonna do.
Take this moment to make sure we're still good. We're still good?
Yep, that's a good shot to do that. Just fucking autofocus is probably great. But yeah, Green Goblin... fucking beats up Spider-Man. He's still strong as fuck, and lethal is all shit, and he's knocking him out and knocking him around this apartment building, and it was an awesome fight. It was probably the best fight in the movie because you could see it. Like, they're going through floors and walls.
It reminded me of what a Mortal Kombat movie's fights should look like, with people blasting through the environments and...
Yeah, it was like Injustice when you're knocking people around. It was so cool.
A lot of the fight choreography is pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it's just, especially Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Green Goblin.
Yep. Yeah, and they have two fights. There's that one and then the one at the end where they're zooming up on them.
I really liked the fuck you plex that Holland Spider-Man did to Green Goblin in that second fight.
Yeah, where he flipped over him.
Flips over him and then just fucking throws him head first into the floor.
Yeah, yeah. And they're fighting on a big Captain America shield, which someone thought was a good idea to staple to the Statue of Liberty. Like, everybody thought that was an alternate universe. Like, no, that's the main one in honor of Captain America.
I was wondering, is that from, like, one of the Disney Plus shows that I haven't watched?
No.
That's just something they're doing, I guess. Okay.
That was something new to the movie. I don't remember. I'm sure maybe there was some mention in the boring-ass Winter Soldier and Falcon show.
That they're remodeling the Statue of Liberty to include the Captain America shield?
Yeah, which the audience, I heard some people groaning when they showed that. People were not very thrilled about that.
Yeah, it was a strange addition.
A little tasteless. Weird.
But I'll allow it. It sounds strange, but I'll allow it, as Dr. Strange said.
Yeah. But, like, that shield fell. It got knocked down during the fight with the Sinister Six, who weren't really even working together.
It's turned upside down, and the last little fight between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin takes place inside that shield.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
I was wondering if the camera was going to run out of memory. Need more memory, bud. Well, I guess... Well, my thing is, like, I liked seeing the Spideys come together and the villains. It was cool seeing the villains all in the dungeon talking to each other. And then, like, there were two from, like, Raimiverse, two from Andrew Garfield's, like, world. When they kind of recognized each other and talked, that was cool. And then just them talking to each other, that was cool. Like, all of them conversing about their lives and shit. Like, that was cool. Seeing the Spideys come together was... awesome. We can get more into how they met up, but seeing them just all together was great. They had tons of good interactions. But my thing, it felt like we didn't get a lot of it. Like, it felt, even though it's a 2.5 hour movie, I think they wanted to kind of breeze through it because they want to do a Spider-Verse movie, live action, but that's probably going to have more Spider-Man in it and more villains. So, but yeah, it just kind of felt like it was very quick, like very fleeting when they're together. I feel like we didn't even get to see much of Garfield and Maguire.
But what we do get of them is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just on their own, it's nice to see these actors in the roles again.
Yeah. That was very nostalgic.
The writing for them is spot on. They get the characters right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was worried they wouldn't, but they did. Like,
I am especially impressed, again, with Andrew Garfield. Like, full disclosure here, I'm a big fan of Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like him as Spider-Man.
I think he's the best live-action one. I know that's an incredibly unpopular opinion.
He might be. It's just his movies were kind of stinky.
It's very unfortunate how his films were written.
He even knew they were bad. That's why he got fired. He talked shit.
So it was really nice to see well-written, well-directed portrayal of Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They got his take on the character right. Like, he's sort of a quiet, nerdy... but sort of relatable.
Yeah.
Like, down-to-earth Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I think my favorite moment of him was when MJ was demanding he prove he's Spider-Man. And he's hanging from the ceiling in, like, Ned's aunt's house or something.
And she keeps throwing bread at him.
Yeah, because, well, we can kind of get into how the Spideys came together. Ned has, like, magic affinity. He jokes, there's, like, a one-off joke about it, which I had a feeling would come in later. He
comes up to Doctor Strange when Tom Holland brings his friends into the Sanctum Sanctorum to help him look for these villains that are wreaking havoc. And Ned just sort of gives this one-off line about, there's a magic lineage in his family, and Doctor Strange just sort of brushes it off.
He tells him to see a physician because he's like, I got these tingles in my hands, and he's like, you should see a physician. And
Well, he did see a physician, Doctor Strange.
true, he's a brain surgeon.
And he should know about tingly hands, shouldn't he?
He should, and it was just funny that he completely dismissed it. He's like, you're not magic, fuck you. But then later, after, like, Spidey takes the teleporting portal ring thing from Strange when he, like, bodies him and gives it to Ned. I don't know why the fuck Ned had it. Ned just had it at one point, and he's wearing it.
Ned thought it was magic and special. He puts it on and forgets about it, and then he's just gesturing with his hands...
Yeah, he's just wearing it as bling, and they're at the aunt's house, and they're, like... Aunt May had just died after that fateful encounter with Goblin and the bad guys going bad again because they decided they didn't want to be cured. They all fucking blow the building up and leave.
I wanted to say spoiler warning, but we're already well past that.
Yeah, but I yelled that. We are definitely in spoiler warning territory.
We're deep in the shit now.
Yeah, so they're sitting... Well, Spidey's off really sad about Aunt May dying. And they're sitting there wishing they knew where he was. And like, oh, we wish Peter was here. And that's when Ned kind of says that. And the sparkle hits the air. And MJ's like, do that again. And he's like, ah, blah. So then a portal opens and there's an alley with a Spider-Man in it. And I could tell from like the eye lenses, like, that's not Peter, but it's Peter. Peter 3.
I knew it was coming, and I was just like, yes.
As soon as you could see him, it was amazing.
They make that joke a few times in the movie, too.
Yeah, and meme on Electro.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
so
he comes...
hard.
Yeah. And he comes through and he takes his mask off, and that's when the whole scene happens, because MJ's like, you're not Spider-Man, you're not our Peter, who are you? And then he jumps up and grabs the ceiling.
Hanging from the ceiling by his hand, and...
Because he wanted to prove he was a Spider-Man from another universe, and there's just a whole thing about that. It kind of went on a little long. It was funny, but, like, yeah, just the moment she's throwing bread at him and stuff. Like, he gets her to stop, and then she just throws another roll at him at one point, like, minutes later, still, like, not trusting him. And then I almost felt like it was too convenient, because right after that, they wish again. Of course, Tobey Maguire shows up. What do they call him? One of those cool...
Youth pastors?
Yep.
Because he's dressed down. He's got like a t-shirt and a sweater on and like a cardigan. And
yeah. And his suit's like underneath because they caught him when he wasn't being full-on Spider-Man. And it turns out both of them were in the universe. They got pulled through too. Because everyone who knew Spider-Man was Peter Parker was being pulled in, and they would know, so they got pulled into that universe.
I wonder if that means Tobey Maguire's Aunt May should have been pulled in.
Well, only a few people slipped through. I mean, there might have been more that we didn't see. There's a post-mid-credits scene where Venom is over. You see it at the end of Carnage. He's been pulled into the universe. They get more into that. He doesn't do much.
It's just a sequel teaser.
Yes, because he leaves a piece of the symbiote behind somehow when the counter spell puts him back.
I wondered how they were going to handle that. Like, would they have to flip the script and make it so the symbiote leaves Eddie Brock to go to Spider-Man? Because otherwise that dynamic between the two characters just wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wonder what they're going to do with that, because that Venom comes from another universe Venom, and Aunt May died because of a villain from another universe, which is cool. Going back to bringing the Peters together, that part I felt was too convenient. Was just that's also how Tobey Maguire showed up, because let's just try again. We didn't get the right Peter, and then he's there. But it was a cool interaction.
Sure. It's one of those things where it's like, because it needed to for the script, like, it was a little convenient, but I'll forgive it because the writing between the characters was so good.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing I feel going into this movie, is that the action set pieces are nice, but the real draw is the writing between the characters.
Yes.
Like, just when you've got the villains from the other movies just in the individual cells, like, riffing on each other.
Mm-hmm.
when they're in the apartment and they're like just having these sort of casual conversations.
Yep.
Like, it's just really nice because it's like we get more time with these characters that we'd long since written off as, you know, we're not going to see them again.
Yeah.